fingers on the dial. Static hums and buzzes, voices cut the silence. Truth ain't taking pauses. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech owls calling, red's got your ear.
We the People Wednesday will begin in just a few short minutes, folks. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you still have time to jump over to the VIP Backstage Lounge at rippandrabbithole.com. If you are listening on demand, go ahead and fast forward to about the 3-minute mark and you will jump into tonight's live show. Stay tuned, folks. Show starts soon.
Late night highway, headlights chasing dreams. The rip on rabbit hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech owls calling, red's got your ear.
Rippin' Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Rippin' Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Chasing dreams, the rip on rabbit hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, shout what's real. Screech owls watching, red's got the wheel. Eyes wave in the static air, freedom's crackling everywhere. Every voice matters.
Good evening and welcome to We the People Wednesday. It is Wednesday, August 5th, 2026. I am Screech Owl Scott.
And I'm Red.
And we want to thank you, our co-hosts, for joining us right here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio, where your voice will be heard around the world as we discuss hot topics, recent news, and new developments. If you've dialed up We the People Wednesday, congratulations. You can now declare yourself one of the We the People people. If you're listening on Rumble or YouTube, please give We the People a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you will receive notifications each and every time we go live. If you want to join the We the People conversation, hop on over to rippandrabbithole.com. Click on the 24/7 tab in the taskbar. Scroll down until you see the backstage. Click on that big red Enter Now button. Allow the permissives and join the fun. The backstage lounge is free and always will be. It's a great place to meet new friends and talk about anything that you want to. And we can speak from experience when we say that you will often find We the People people deep into the early AM hours. That is rippandrabbithole.com. RIPPONRABBITHOLE.com. There are just a very few simple rules. We ask that you remain respectful to others at all times. Raise your hand when you have something you want to say.
Raise your hand.
And Red, you screwed me up now.
I didn't know
But most of all, have some fun because this is a show for We the People. Well, Red, we made it through another week. We're here on a Wednesday, a little cooler today here in
Thank goodness.
northeast Wisconsin.
Thank goodness, because our air is not working.
Our central air went out, folks, and it's
Yesterday morning.
it got really warm in here yesterday. So
Yeah, the owl's nest is a little warm.
Little warm, cozy, very cozy, right, Red? Neither one of us slept very well last night.
Nope, I know I didn't.
So, Red, I don't know. We've got a very light crowd back here. We've got Jenny, Screech, of course, Rippin' Rabbit, Studio B, and the People's Governor. And tonight's subject, I know that he can chime in on because he knows all about what we're going to talk about all too well.
Exactly.
But before we get into that, we just last week we asked for some prayers for our friend and friend of the show, Christine, who was hospitalized. She's been in and out of the
Well, yeah, she went. Well, the ambulance picked her up last Thursday, like 10 minutes before the show, and she gave us some alarming information when we picked her up on Sunday from the hospital to come home. And we dropped her off about 5 o'clock. And
they thought they had everything regulated where
right,
they needed it.
and then the ambulance came back at midnight to take her back to the hospital. So
So
just a
she's
few short
been in the
hours.
hospital. She had a procedure done the other day, and Christine, if you're listening on either of the other platforms, our prayers continue to be with you.
Absolutely.
We the people are all praying for your health, and hopefully she'll be discharged tomorrow.
Yes.
That's kind of the plan at this point. So
Yes.
uh, anyway, that's the update on Christine, friend of the Rip and Rabbit Hole, and our neighbor
Yep.
here in the nest.
Yep. Right across the street.
In our perch. She's got the perch across the street.
Yep. And she said we can't leave.
Yeah, well,
Well,
Red, who knows what's going to happen because after this election, uh,
yeah,
who
there's
knows
other states that look
who
a little
knows what's
bit
going
more
to happen.
favorable right now.
We'll see what happens. But tonight, folks, we're going to talk about the RACC, and maybe it was a subject matter when the promo went out. Maybe people don't want to talk about the RACC. Maybe they don't want to hear about the dark money.
No, I don't think they do. Because, like somebody said earlier, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and have the conversation though, and maybe they'll tune in later, Red, and listen to it on demand. All shows are available on demand at rippandrabbithole.com, and they're
Absolutely.
archived also in YouTube and Rumble.
Absolutely.
So hopefully folks will tune in because this was really alarming to me, Red, when we
Well,
talk about the RACC.
yeah, because, I said to you, and I know I also said it to the people's governor, I just, whoops, I got a little too close to the microphone. Um, I always just assumed that it was the candidates slash legislators that donated the money to, or I shouldn't even say donated, they paid their dues. But then I'm finding all these packs and conduits, and I'm like, what?
So before we get into that, because there are listeners, Red, that aren't familiar with RACC, and I don't know why we are getting this feedback. There you go.
I don't know.
All right, hold your arm
I
right there,
can't
Red.
hold
Don't
my
move.
arms like this
Uh,
throughout the whole show.
for our listeners out of state or just not familiar with the RACC,
Yep,
I don't know what that is, Red. Just
I
ignore
don't
it.
either.
Try and ignore it.
Try to ignore that tick, tick, tick,
I
tick.
don't know. I don't know if
Uh-oh,
they're hearing.
ticket.
They might not hear it through out there. It might just be us, Red.
Okay, don't move.
So the the RACC, what it is, it's an acronym that stands for the Republican Assembly Campaign Committee, and it's the official campaign committee whose purpose is to help Republicans win and maintain seats in the Wisconsin State Assembly. Uh, According to RACC's very own website, their mission is to recruit and support candidates for the Wisconsin State Assembly to advocate for conservative, responsible government. Sounds really nice
Yeah,
on the surface, doesn't it?
sounds
It,
like,
it sounds like a really well-oiled idea
yeah,
to help us maintain control of our
correct.
majorities in the assembly.
Yeah, and I see some things wrong with their statement though. Right there is they probably should put like an asterisk and say we only give this money to people that um, are already legislators, the incumbents, so to speak. So if you try to challenge any of the incumbents, then we're gonna fight tooth and nail against you.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that come into play, Red, and uh, before we get too far into this and ask maybe the people's governor to chime in on RAC,
Hmm.
let's just look at some of the numbers, Red, and like you said, I think what was brought to our attention, we didn't understand this, and shame on us for not understanding it, Red, that PACs were paying into that
Yes.
the portion that is handled by the legislator or our representatives or candidates is a very, very small percentage of the money that
Compared
they
to
take
some of
in.
these other numbers,
Well,
yeah.
it's much more. It's only a very small percentage of the money they take in overall.
Yeah.
Because this money is coming from PACs and lobbyists and
Yep.
the likes.
Yep. And the largest one that I see on the report from it covers, oops, hang on, I believe it's 7/1.
July.
Yep,
It was
7/1 to 7/27.
yeah, it was basically the most recent month
Right.
that they reported.
Right. And I will also point out that I didn't realize there was two different funds. They're both RACC funds, but one's um a different type of fund. But they almost mirror each other. But the largest one on this particular one is a $4 million donation from Elizabeth Uline.
So, folks, if you're not from, well, if you're from Wisconsin, you've probably heard the Uline name. Diane Hendricks is another one. I think that's her name, right?
Yep. And on
Sh-
this particular report, she only gave $1,250, which I thought was pretty surprising. But
well,
I believe she's on the other one.
she also wrote a check for $20,000 for Nate Polnow. So
Oh yeah,
maybe
maybe she's running out of money.
maybe she had to scale back a little bit for her RACC donation
Right.
this time around. But folks, there's a lot of money that flows into the RACC fund,
But
including
yeah, including
money
legislators.
that is the legislators are asked and encouraged to participate in this. And just now, again, this is from the July report, correct? Red?
Yes, this
So
was
why don't you
7/1 to 7/27.
why don't you just, and we're not going to go through the entire list, folks, because some of these were $600, some of them were 1,000, but we're going to name just a few. We are going to name a few.
Yep.
Because I think it's important that people understand as we talk about RACC and what they do. I think it's important for people to understand what their representatives, who is donating to this fund.
Yep. And it's listed under the transfers in from other registrants. And I will say the largest one on this particular report is Mr. Scott Krug, which also, by the way, is the treasurer that files these reports.
So Scott Krug, who was we saw was just pictured with some of the other delegates, including Robin Boss, at the NCLS meeting and I don't know what state it happened in, but so Mr. Krug.
I'm gonna guess it's probably Texas because I've seen a lot of disbursements coming out of Texas at the end of the month.
I don't know where they hold the meeting, and it doesn't matter where they hold it.
Yeah.
The fact is that Robin Boss and others, including Scott Krug, who donated to the RACC fund,
17,500. That's the largest one on this particular report.
Okay, so just why don't Red? You've got the report in front of you. Just name a couple. Just name a couple of the reps who donated and the amount in July.
Okay, so there's Donovan for Assembly for 12,500. There's another one, Robert Whitkey.
Whitkey for Assembly.
Whitkey for Assembly, 12,500. Oh, there is another 17,500 for Rob Summerfield out of Bloomer. Chuck Wickers. That one's only 1,250. Dave Armstrong, 5,000. Zimmerman for Wisconsin, 15,000. Joy Gobin, 12,500. And then the one that I was really surprised on this particular report was Zurich Holding Company of America Committee for Good Government, or better known as ZPAC. I'm like, what? Who's ZPAC? So we had to look that up.
And
you've got the report in front of you.
I've got this report. So ZPAC is Zurich Insurance, and what I can tell you, folks, is that I've got a graph here, and I don't have the graphic that I can put up for you. If anybody wants to see that I'm not lying, I'm happy to provide it to anybody. But this is a PAC, and for those of you that think that PACs only donate money to Republicans or Democrats,
Like
Zurich,
one specific, this pack will do Republicans and this pack will do Democrats. Is that what you mean?
yeah, I'm
Okay,
saying that
just to be clear.
they only give to Republicans or they only give to Democrats.
Right.
This one chart that I have here in front of me, Red, shows that Zurich Insurance, and this goes back, folks, to the year 1998,
Mm,
and smaller
well, the ones
smaller
that you can
amounts in the
see.
beginning, 50 grand, but up to, and this goes through 2018, but they're still donating. But this specific chart,
Yes.
2018, you know, almost 100 grand. But the interesting point is they give money to both parties.
Really? Hmm.
And almost even amounts of money. There's only two
There's a
years.
couple.
There's only 2 years here, and this goes back to '04 and '06 when they gave about twice as much to the Republicans than they did the Democrats. But we're talking substantial dollars here. We're talking,
Well, in
hundreds of thousands of
yeah, but
dollars.
in all the years, there's only what two years that they gave more to the Democrat than they did to the Republican.
But I
But
think
they
that
gave them to both of them
but
in the same year.
the bottom line is in the same year they're giving to
Yes.
both parties, so they're covering their rear ends, Red. When
Well,
they want
yeah,
legislation passed, they make sure they're greasing both sides of the aisle on that one.
exactly.
When they need uh, money for some bill, I'm sure, and I'm sure if we were to look back in those big money years and look back to '04 and '06,
Hmm.
what kind of bills were passed that the insurance lobby really wanted, that they were kicking in that kind of money. Uh,
Absolutely. I would love to know. But also in this report, they also show disbursements transfers out to other registrants. So it tells you how much they give to each candidate. And let's see, I'm just going to glance down.
and again, these are varying amounts, and a lot of them are small. And we know the game that's being played. They're providing walk lists and things like that, and they put a monetary value on the walk list, and some of it could be that. So we're not going to make uh, the assumption that each candidate is accepting anything. Some of them could just be a walk list.
Well, from what I understand, the walk list for the assembly is around 10,000, or I mean, sorry, that was for the Senate. $500.
Right.
It might have went up to
So
600.
some of these $600 ones could be that they turned over a walk list to them.
Yes,
Uh,
but then there's, quite a few. Well, let's see, the largest one was David Daniels out of Nina. They gave him 4,500. Friends of Dylan out of Oak Creek, 4,000. Bobby Lindsay out of Green Bay, 4,000. Bruce Stabenow, 4,000. So those
and
are all the 4,000 or above. The rest of them are all less than 1,000.
right. So they're putting money in there in some form, either money or walk lists or putting out a mailer, whatever the case is.
Well, oh, there's another page. But I will say there's also in-kind donations, or what they're calling in-kind, which they specify what they are, what it's going for. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. 6 of them that were listed under the in-kind. And they were all for $15,000 each. So you have Friends of Pat Schneider, Novak for Assembly, Zimmerman for Wisconsin, Franklin for Wisconsin, Clint Moses for Wisconsin, and Donovan for Assembly. They were all for media online advertising. $90,000.
So in some cases,
But the other ones didn't get that.
substantial amounts of money. And here's one of the questions that I have, and I know that Tim is probably chomping at the bit to talk about RACC money. But the question that I have really for the people listening, Red, as the room is beginning to fill up, I want to welcome Kimber and Flippin' Rob and Harry T Rex is back here. Amanda, Wisconsin Annie, Catherine B. Welcome all for our discussion about RACC funds
Yes.
this evening. You know, when I hear about RACC funds, and Red, you know, going back to the last election cycle, I said there were some candidates who were thinking about taking RACC money
Mm-hmm.
or RACC help.
Right.
And I said, if RACC is in, Screech is out.
Yep.
Right?
And we did.
I can't help you on your campaign if you're accepting dollars from uh, money that Robin Voss controls. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it.
Yep.
And you know, we're hearing some people within our circle saying, well, you know, maybe we just need to take the RACC money
And try to get elected.
and then try and fix it after we get elected, because it can only help the candidates who aren't raising a lot of money. But
or they don't have, excuse me, they don't have help like say door knocking or getting the word out. But I do know some statewide candidates that have been running all over the state.
But not even statewide. Let's talk about
I know.
let's stick to the assembly, Red, because that's what we're talking about.
I was just
But
saying
think
that
about Scott
they're
Harbridge
doing it by themselves.
Think about Scott
Yep.
Harbridge up in the 74th,
He's doing it by himself.
or Steve Rzuski in the 37th.
Yep.
They're not taking RACC money. In fact, they
Nope.
probably haven't been offered any RACC
Nope.
money either, because they know
they don't want them there.
And they know. I mean, Robin Voss knows, or the people who control this money know, that Steve Rzuski and Scott Harbridge cannot be bought.
Correct.
So I'm sure there has not been any offer of money for either of those two candidates, and they're purchasing signs. They're purchasing the literature that needs to go out.
Well, and I remember last time, the people that were running for office were invited to go down for a training, and I say quote unquote training, but there was several candidates that weren't offered to come down for that training, and Scott Harbridge was one of them, and so was Jay Calhoun. I can't think of any more offhand. I know him, but I see a hand up. Go
We
ahead.
do have a hand. The people's governor has his hand up. Tim, you are free to jump in at any point tonight.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you and good evening. I did want to touch on the moment of expression here about which candidates are getting money from the RACC and which aren't. If you think about the return on investment for the effort, let's pick on the 37th with Rajeski, Steve Raduski. How do you say it? Rajeski. I think it's Rajeski. Yeah, Steve Rajeski.
Yes.
Their horse in the race, the RACC's horse in the race, the establishment preferred puppet in the race is Mark Warren. Why would you give any money to his challenger? So that's part of it too, you know, which is a conversation we should have as well. If you really want good governance, everybody should be given equal opportunity. The playing field should be level, and the merit of the message and the candidate quality should be the factor that wins the seat for that person. That doesn't happen in this environment. What happens is money buys favoritism, money buys more funding to help them advertise more, to get the message out to more, to make them look popular, to make them look like something they're actually not, by the way. There's a facade that comes with the money, and it hides the lack of quality that we have in candidates, and people get the impression, well, that must be the one we're supposed to vote for because they're backed by so and so and such and such. So a lot of what you're talking about tonight is influence factors. They want to maintain control. They want people who go along with the status quo, and this is a quid pro quo element within the public sector environment. Think about this for a minute too. In the private sector, people apply for jobs, they interview, there's objectives, there's a job description, there's a role they play that's funded by a salary for that role. And if they don't do well, they're terminated. What happens in the public sector is you apply, you're given money to campaign, to continue your application process to gain the vote favor. And then there's more money given to you to retain the seat if you conform to the requirements set forth by the party, by the establishment. what I'm trying to say is there's a significantly huge difference between private sector and public sector. And the public sector doesn't focus on quality, it focuses on the go along and get along. So everything about the RAC is influence factor mentality. It's all for favoritism. It's all for keeping the status quo in place. And when you take it, you're compromised the expectation that you're going to go along to get along. You can't take it and then change your mind. Um, if you do, they'll ask for you to pay it back. So ask yourself this question: if I take a loan up front and I got to pay it back, why do I take it in the first place? You know, to avoid that obligation to me is everything. And again, I'll remind you and the folks listening in, I'm the only member of of the legislative body for 2 full terms who did not pay a dime into this process because I saw it for what it is, and I would not play that game. I didn't need them to get elected in 2018, and yet they came around once I got elected and said, "Well, we can do this, we can do that, and by the way, you can do this, and you can do that." I said, "No, I don't play that. I didn't need you to get into the seat. I don't work for you. So I'm not going to play. We need more individuals to say those things and to do those things and to feel that way in public seats. Otherwise, we can't ever get to good governance." And by the way, the term public service is supposed to serve the public. The RAC
Absolutely.
doesn't allow them to serve the public. The RAC enforces them to serve the RAC or the establishment element. Dan Lemahue was the rep in the 59th, who retired in 2014. He was in there for 6 terms, maybe 7. Anyway, he made a comment to me once that made my forehead wrinkle. He said, "It's a good gig to be a rep in Wisconsin. It's a good gig." And I thought to myself, Gig? I don't think it's a gig. I think it's a dutiful obligation to serve the public who entrusted you to represent them there to deliver for their betterment, their best interest, that greater good, not to self-serve. So I didn't like the word gig applied to the role, but I'll tell you, when I got in there and I saw it and I heard it, and I see it today in the way people behave, they want the gig, they want the title, they want the seat, they want the favor, and they want the funding, so they can grift and they can coast. Some people have this as their role full time. Some people have full time jobs and they're state reps. So they're double dipping financially, in my humble opinion. How can you do either job well when you're split into 2, if not thirds? If you're a husband and a father, you got family things, you got your private sector things, and you're going to be a state rep too. How can you be a good state rep when you really don't have enough time because the other elements in your life conflict with that? So all of these things help make it easy to keep the job once you get in, as long as you go along with what they want. So
So,
go ahead.
I've got a couple things for you, Tim. One, Catherine wrote in the chat that she had talked to Senator Nass about RAC last night. He suggested that that leadership decides, not just Voss, but about where the money goes. But there's a leadership team. Do you know, is that true? And do you know who makes up the leadership team in the assembly? As tonight we're speaking specifically about RAC.
Well, you've got your officers, you got your speaker, majority leader, assistant majority leader, caucus chair, caucus secretary. Your joint finance rep is on the failureship team. Sorry, it's not leadership, it's failureship right now anyway. Those are the members primarily. Rules committee members can also be part of failureship. Because the rules is what sets the tone for what hits the floor and what's voted on. And there's discussion around what they want to be on the floor for discussion and debate and in action. And there's stuff they want to keep off the floor. So there's a couple of extra perspectives that may come from the rules committee membership as well. But I don't agree with Senator Nass's comment. Everything flows through Robin Voss, period, end of story. He will tell you who gets what and who doesn't get anything. And he's huge on fundraising and donations and going after special interests and lobbying groups. They call it the cattle call. They have one every session, 6 or 7 months into the year, like they will about a year from now. So a year from now, we'll be into the next session about 7, 8 months. And they'll have an event off campus, off the square of the Capitol. You can't do anything campaign related on the 5 acre square where the Capitol sits. You have to be at least a block away. And what they usually do is they find a place more than a block away. Usually it's maybe a different city or a different municipality. And they'll have an event where they'll bring in special interests in lobbying individuals and big business, and they'll mingle in with the legislators, senators as well as reps. They call it the cattle call because it's like herding cattle. You know, they get them in line, get them into their places, and literally milk them for money. And the lobbyists and special interests will size up the members of the legislator group, who they want to get behind and who they want to work with, and who's on joint finance. Those are huge magnets because joint finance handles all the appropriations for state fundings, right? So if you get into good graces with joint finance group, by the way, their dues are higher. I think their minimum is 15 grand. It might even be higher than that, 20, 25 grand. But they get huge donations from special interests and lobbying groups, so they can afford to do a donation of 15 grand or 20 grand to the RACC because they're getting it from big business. It's one big shell game. They launder money all over the place, in and out, reps to special interest to reps, big business. Everybody's money shuffling the deck. They got the same thing in the Senate side. It's called CERS, CERS, stands for Campaign to Elect Republican Senators. And CERS, their stool pigeon failureship member is Dan Fine. He runs point for that group on the Senate side, and they do the same thing over there. They shell money all over between members and between organizations to keep everybody happy and to keep everybody. That's the team player mentality, right? If you go along to get along, you're part of the team. But
Do you know
no,
what their walk list price is for the Senate side?
I think it's higher than 500 or 600. I heard you say it
It's
earlier.
$10,500.
Oh, now they're up to 10 grand.
Yeah, I seen it on Katie Bainey's.
Well, that's an interesting comment. So for me in 2018, let me back up. Was it 2018? No, 2014 when I ran for the first time and was not successful because they picked a different person to be the puppet for the 59th back in 2014. It was $500 in kind donation. And the walk lists were dated. They're very ineffective. I didn't even use them. I ended up doing every door. I didn't care who I talked to. If it was a Democrat, I wanted everybody to know I was running for the 59th. In 2018, they tried to do it again to me, and they were asking 1,000 in 2018. So if they're up at 10,500, that's quite an increase in a very short period of time for data that's not correct. You can go up to a door and ask for, may I speak to Mr. Smith? He passed away 6 years ago. I mean, it's a very embarrassing thing to have happen to you. But when I used the walk list the one time, which was in 14, that happened to me. It's not a up-to-date data set. So
No, it clearly isn't. I'm well aware of that. Tim, I've got to take a break, and I know that there were a couple hands raised. We'll get to you as soon as we come back from the break, and we will definitely hear more from the people's governor in the second
Absolutely.
half of the show.
Get rid
There's
of
the
that
noise.
ticking.
There's the noise again. The ticking bombs in our head. Red, we do have to talk about a couple things. First of all, August 26th,
Yeah.
Harry Waite will be in Manitowoc. Harry's bringing his story to the Manitowoc County Patriots meeting held at the Holiday Inn on Calumet, right off Highway 43. It starts at 6 with a half hour of like socializing,
Yes.
and then 6:30 they're going to kick off the event. You and I are going to be there. We're going to go live that night.
Yep. We're gonna have the show live that night.
And we're going to cover the whole thing. So if you're in the backstage or you're listening on YouTube or Rumble and you have a question for Harry Wade when we open it up to the Q&A, you'll be able to ask your questions to Harry through Red and I.
Yes.
And
they are doing a potluck as well.
That will be a multiple hour event for us because we don't know how long it's going to go, but we will be there for the entire thing.
Absolutely.
So if you're anywhere near Northeast Wisconsin or on the lake shore here in Manitowoc, and you want the opportunity to meet Harry Wade and hear firsthand Harry's story, and he'll talk about anything
Yep, he
that
does
you
not
ask him.
sugarcoat it.
And this is your opportunity to meet Harry. So I encourage you, if you're in Green Bay, Appleton, the Fox Cities, Oshkosh, Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, Manitowoc, come on over to Manitowoc. That'll be a great event.
Unless you want to travel, you can come on down. Either way.
Yeah,
You're more than welcome
I
to
thought
come.
That's what I just said.
No, I mean travel from like western Wisconsin, northern.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Wyoming. If you're
I was
listening in
just gonna
Wyoming
say
and
that.
you want to meet Harry Wade, fly into and listen to him. And then the other thing we have to talk about is the second annual Liberty Summit coming up September 25th and 26th. Going to be a great event. I don't know if I got the clearance to announce the keynote speaker, so I'm not going to say because I know it's been put out there, but I'm not going to say at this point because without the go-ahead to release that information, I'm not going to do it. But Friday night, it's a social event. I'm told that there's going to be karaoke this year. And
Andrea, if you're listening, because I know you're not back here tonight, or at least not right yet. You were wondering about the karaoke. There's going to be karaoke on Friday night.
So there's going to be karaoke on Friday night as we socialize, and I'm sure some candidates will roll in on Friday night and mingle with the crowd a little bit.
They're invited to.
That's going to be the social part of the event, really.
Yes.
Friday night, and then Saturday morning, bright and early, like 9 o'clock, the Liberty Summit will really kick off with the speakers, and I know that they've got some good speakers lined up. Hot Government and the Wisconsin Conservative Digest are again sponsoring the second annual Liberty Summit. If you weren't there last year, I encourage you to go to hotgovernment.com/summit.
Yes.
And register today, because I know that.
And the rooms are booking up quick.
And the rooms are booking up. It's being held at the Holiday Inn, Rothschild.
Rothschild.
Rothschild. Oh, yeah.
Rothschild.
Wausau.
It's right out of Wausau.
Wausau area. And it's going to be a great event. Red and I are really looking forward to it. I can tell you that you can book tables of 8 and receive a $25 discount per person to do the the table of 8, and it's going to be another good weekend for the Liberty Summit.
Absolutely. It's Rothschild. Sorry. Wausau Rothschild. Holiday Inn and Suites. What the? You know what I mean.
Anyway, the second annual Liberty Summit, like Red said, the rooms are booking up, so, reserve your room today, and they've got some rooms blocked off for the Liberty Summit. Sure to be a good time. And we're going to learn a lot. There's going to be an action plan, and we're going to leave feeling energized to go out and do the unthinkable.
And when you book your room, you can book your room online or by phone, and use the black code HOT or the black name Hot Government, and you'll get the Hot Government rate.
Awesome. So, all right, that's the
and who's going to be emceeing the event? And I know he's got a lot of plans for the event so far.
Yes, I've been asked to MC the event this year, and I graciously accepted it. It's an honor to be a part of this, and for those that know me, I'm going to bring my personality to this, and I'm just going to make it as fun for everybody as possible, and and there will be some great speakers there.
Absolutely,
there really will be. So, in fact, our very own AJ the Rippin' Rabbit,
yes, he is
will
going
be
to be
presenting.
there.
He's one of the presenters during the Liberty Summit. So AJ will be in town. Come on and join us all at the Liberty Summit, the second annual Liberty Summit. And there's purpose behind this one.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, let's go back to talking about the RACC Fund, because I know we had a couple people with their hand raised. If they still want to speak, we have.
Well, I know Catherine had her hand up,
and I think Flip and Rob.
Well.
Yeah, okay, so Catherine, I'm going to go Rob first because he had his hand up before you. Go ahead, Rip and Rob.
Hey everyone, listen to the show. don't mean to sound uneducated, but can you clarify something, or maybe Mr. Ramsden can,
If we can't, I'm sure he
and
can.
not to bring up a name from the past, but Fisher. He ran when Ramsden decided to run for governor. He thought he had Ramsden's backing, and then Ramsden said, "No, I'm running for governor." But that aside, a few of us had met with Fisher. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And Dan Zimmerman asked him about if he was going to accept any donations or something like that. However it was worded, I apologize. But, and this is a clarification I'm asking for, Fisher said that there was like a fund available through the state of like 30, I believe it was 30,000, if not $50,000 that he could use in campaigning as long as he provided receipts and whatever else. I seem like I asked, well, how do you pay that back? Is that a one-time thing? And it's so long ago, I can't remember the answers. I think he said he had to pay it back if he didn't pursue all the way through the race, which obviously he dropped out. Is that the same thing that you guys are talking about?
Well,
If not, then I apologize, but
I
just for clarification.
I can tell you that that money would not have come from RACC, I don't believe, because I think RACC money, at least is supposed to go to assembly candidates, I believe. But we can ask Tim if there is a fund that the state provides for, say, a gubernatorial candidate. And Tim, can you speak on that? Is there such a coffer of money that is available to candidates to use?
No, not to my knowledge. I can't speak to that. And if there was something that was utilized by a candidate, I'm sure it was something they had to be paid back as well. I didn't go anywhere near the money. Let me just make a statement to the question. If you embrace the purpose of public service in government, and you understand who you work for, and you understand you're dutifully obligated to serve the people, primarily the ones who sent you there, which would be district related. I was the 59th rep, or let me rephrase, I was the rep for the 59th Assembly District. There's 99 of them in the state, and I was one of them. And yet I had the title of state representative. So in my mind, yes, my priority was my district, but I didn't draw lines around my borders. I worked for the state of Wisconsin. And what ultimately happened to me was people from around the state were calling me, asking me for help or for some answers or something because their rep and their senator from their respective districts weren't. So I began to work for the entire state. I was in one district, one assembly district, and I was actually working a statewide office, essentially, which takes me to another point. If you do the job the way you're supposed to, you work out by and for the people, and you deliver results, you get answers, it's a lot of work. It's 7 days a week. And it's not easy.
So Tim, to that point, I've been asked oftentimes when I question an assembly candidate in another district outside the district that I live in.
Right.
But let's face it, when yes, you represented the 59th, and you could try and write legislation that might be geared toward the people of the 59th, but every vote you cast as a member of the state assembly impacted every Wisconsinite. Am I right? I mean, you're not writing laws specific to 99 different assembly districts.
Right. The rep level is the closest to the people. Same with the House of Representatives in Washington. That's why they're 2-year cycles, because they're closest to the people. And when the people elect somebody, or in the case of our broken selections, select somebody to represent them, If they don't work out, they should be replaced. There's nothing wrong with turnover and in a public service seat. The problem is the establishment doesn't want that change. They don't want to have to retrain somebody or reprogram or readdress the need, how they can control majority. They want to retain the ones that they know will go along and get along to support the status quo and the quid pro quo. That's why we have elements like the RACC who fund it to keep the favor in place. I got to get something off my chest here. I'm listening. I could talk to you guys for hours. I really could. But going back to my point, what's the principal element that the individual should be embracing? I want to serve. I want to serve, not be on the receiving end of gratuities and favors and grifts that take away your focus. And that's what the RAC does. That's what all of the influence factors do, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we don't have effective government. We have dysfunction in government because they're not focused on the greater good. And it frustrates me because they seem to think that money's going to solve it, and we're supposed to gravitate toward the next wave of individuals running for office when they haven't proven they're worthy of the vote. I find it very concerning. We got to fix the selections process to make them elections again. Then we have to focus on what is the right thing to do. Period. End of story. I don't even want to pick a topic because I don't want to start a discussion. But think of one thing. Can we just solve that so we don't have to talk about it anymore, or use it as a battering ram for the other side of the aisle to drive for donations? By the way, that's what that's all about. Let's keep the art of war in place so we have dysfunction, so we can blame the other side for their issue. And oh, by the way, we can solve your issues and your problems if you vote for us and send us money too, by the way. At the end of the day, from my experience, I witnessed it, I heard it, I smelled it, I saw it. That's what all of this is about. It's to maintain that control for dollars, to keep kicking cans down the road, and we'll do a couple things over here and a couple things over there, and a little shiny object on the left side, and something big and wow on the right side. And guess what? Keeps the people thinking that they're getting something out of your presence. They're not getting anything. They're just kicking cans down the road. I didn't need financial help from any entity. I didn't want financial help from any entity. I thought I made the decision to run for public office. And if I couldn't do it within my own ability, financial and otherwise, then I shouldn't try for it. Then I don't have what I need to be successful obtaining it. I didn't want to put a dependency on anything. I did not want to be beholden to anyone or anything. And if we had more people like that in seats of government at all levels, we would have better government. So
So Tim, I do have to ask, and I think I just interrupted Red, but
Yep.
is there, and I know legally no one is bound to listen to Robin Boss or vote the way that leadership wants them to vote, but is there an expectation when you start dabbling with accepting their money and paying in the dues, is there an expectation that you will basically vote the way they tell you to, or the way they want you to?
if you say yes to any gratuity, any favor, there's definitely an expectation, and you will be asked and expected to conform. And if you don't, well, then, you're going to get primaried, and you're not going to get any funding, and you're not going to get the committees you want. And we're going to put you in an office down in the basement. Literally, they might even do that. They pulled Janelle out of her office.
I was just gonna say that.
So they do have a tendency to punish people, even in the geography element within the Capitol. They'll put you in a smaller office just to piss you off. They don't let any of your legislation get heard or passed. They'll do things to punish you because you don't play along. Yes, to your question, you're going to be expected to participate in some degree, and that won't ever change. So for me, it was like, I'm going to do this thing on my own. If I get in with the Lord's blessing and otherwise, then I'm in. If I don't, okay, I'm not. Just like when I stepped out of the role in 2022, I don't define myself by being in one of these seats. Many people down there do. They're desperate And think about that too. Why such desperation to hold these seats? Why such desperation to fund puppets to maintain this? Why? It comes back to what this is all about, guys. It's about the control to maintain the movement of monies through different organizations, different people, different groups. It's one big shell game. And it's not so much that as a member, you get all this money. You do get some, you get some favors, you get help in your campaign. So then you don't have to spend any of your money and you don't have to, maybe ask for so much because you're getting handouts from organizations like the RACC. But it's just one big money laundering environment. And I wanted to fix it. That's why I pulled out of my seat and ran for governor in 22, because I wanted to solve this problem. It can be solved. It can be solved. And if we get right people in right role, it will be solved. I don't see that happening for quite a while
Well,
right now.
you're talking about if you take the money, they're expecting you to do XYZ. And, like I said before at the beginning of the show, I thought this was, the legislators that they were the ones that had to, be the ones donating or paying their dues. But then when I started looking at the financials, I'm looking at all these other PACs and whatnot. And, this one is an individual, Patrick English out of Milwaukee, and his occupation is in investment. And he donated $30,000. I wonder what kind of
To RACC.
investment
And
that will give him.
I don't know, but whether it's Robin Boss asking for favors or handing out committees or chair roles, better offices, whether it's that or it's the lobbyists contributing to RACC, everybody wants something for the dollar they're getting. And I want to point something out because I didn't know this until I really started diving into RACC. Folks, as you know, before we had the Wisconsin Election Commission and the Wisconsin Ethics Commission, we had the Government Accountability Board.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, folks, that for those of you that think that the Republicans watch out for us, I want you to understand something, that it was at the same time that Gab was replaced by the Ethics and Elections Commission. And I know Robin Boss had his hands in this one. The laws changed about the amount of money that RACC could take in. And I know that goes right back into the lap of Robin Boss. I know it did. And it changed in grand ways, because before it wasn't like this prior to, I think it was 2014, 2015, something like that, when there were a couple laws that changed under Republican majorities that allowed RACC to grow the way it has, and the amount of money coming in and going out. And Red, you found something else. RACC
Yes.
RACC paid out to the Wisconsin Ethics Commission. And we haven't been able to figure out what that's all about. Maybe it's going to take a.
Yeah, it doesn't say what it is about, but I find it kind of funny that why does RACC need to pay the Ethics Commission anything?
And nothing is no money's handed out without expecting something in return. And we need to get to the bottom. We need to dig deeper on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to look into that one and find out why Robin Boss and RACC
What was that?
was sending money to the Ethics Commission. And Catherine, I so apologize. I know you had your hand raised another time. If you can remember what you were going to say or ask, please feel free to jump in the conversation.
Well, about 5 minutes ago, I could have told you, but now I can't remember. I did want Tim to tell us the name of the Senate committee again, because I couldn't find it online. I couldn't remember what he said.
It's
Sirs.
Sears.
Well, CERS, CERS, Campaign to
Oh,
Elect,
that's right. Okay.
Campaign to Elect Republican Senate, which I
Okay.
was a Republican Senate candidate in 24, but CERS would never get behind me because, I can't go back to Madison. I will be bad for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was the quote, by the way, from the Senate
Well,
Majority Leader. Yeah.
I know what it was that I was gonna say. So when I recently looked at RAC's, some of the contributions, and I was shocked at how much, I originally thought, like you talked about before, that it was just, the legislatures themselves putting into the campaign pack. But it's outside, plenty of outside people. And I was telling Scott, I don't, you may have already said this, Scott or Jenny, but Diane Hendricks in June put in 2.5 million into it.
Yep.
And Elizabeth Uline put 3 million.
It's
And they both actually put in a little bit more than that as well. It was at least 2 or 3 different times that I'm seeing that they donated.
Yeah, I just glanced at it because I didn't have time to totally go through it, but
To that point, by the way, the 10 or so grand from each member on the Republican side only. So right now they're down to 54 members.
Hmm.
The officers, the joint finance members pay more. It's 15, maybe even 20 grand. But that's a handful of individuals out of the 54. That's like 5 or 6 total, right? So roughly 45 members pay 10 grand. That's 450,000. There's millions in this account. So a vast majority of the dollars do not come from the members. It comes from the donor that you're talking about, the donor types, as well as the special interest and the lobbying corps. And they just look to see who wants to play along and be part of the team. So they use the due paying element to see, who they got to control and who they don't. And well, they couldn't
so
control me.
I'll give you an example though, sometimes how they don't know maybe. Rick Stacy was listed recently and he shows up on their page as one of the candidates. And I don't think he understands this. I could be wrong, but I've talked to him a few times now and I know him from the county supervisors. And he's so busy with the supervisors and his own life that I'm not sure anybody's ever gone to him and said, hey, do you really know what RAC is about? So you get some of that with new people running, that they get money from them because they can use the money in their campaign and they don't understand what they're getting into.
Right.
So,
and I think you're probably too, Catherine. I mean, I think that there are some people who don't understand when they accept some of this help. But boy, I'll tell you, it's alarming for me when I see things, and we're looking at the list as we speak, and I'm seeing, you know, Duke Tucker from up north. He defeated Jay Calhoun for that position, and Duke and I have had some reasonable conversations, and I thought Duke could maybe turn out to be one of the better ones, and I see that
He donated
Duke is on
his,
that list.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
we hear a
His
lot about
11,000
Joy Gobin doing some good things, but she's on that list. She, you know,
continues.
the 12,000 or
They
10,000,
continue to pay. In other
and
words,
and this is just very alarming to me that we don't have that. Tim Ramthun said it. He was one of, I think, 54 or 56 was the majority. You know, maybe it was greater than that at the time Tim was in there.
64.
64.
Yeah, 63, 64 when I was there. So I was one of 14 that was irrelevant to the majority leader. They didn't need me because
And
they
you were the only one who didn't pay into RAC.
the only one ever, history,
Yep.
period.
I mean,
And it's the only one.
how can we expect our representation to represent our needs when we have people like the U lines and the
Well, and I'm just going to read a couple of these donations that I'm seeing and the dollar amounts, and just think of some of the legislation that's been talked about, possibly, voted upon, whatever the case may be. You know, there's a lot of people out there talking about these solar farms. And on this particular one, a committee, Solar Action Fund PAC out of Washington, D.C. donated 6,000 back in February. And like I said, I haven't gone through all of them yet, so they may have donated previous reports. But of course, then you have the Tavern League, and we know what happened with the wedding barn bill. Then you have a bunch of insurance companies. Oh my gosh, the insurance companies are crazy.
It,
The Milwaukee Police Association Political Action Committee, they donated 2,000. Um, you know, you have insurance plans. You have Wisconsin Fuel and Retail Association. So you wonder why your gas bills are going up.
well, it's just crazy, Red, the amount of money that flows in and from whom it flows in from.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy, and again, it comes down to how can we ever have representation when we have these types of people or groups
Mm-hmm.
contributing this kind of money to the man who's going to determine what pieces of legislation reach the floor of an assembly for a vote, which even make it to committee. I'm guessing it's just
Yep.
absurd.
Yeah, and then
And
you have the Forest County Potawatomi, and that's 12,000.
it's
You know, Realtors Association, 12,000.
it never
you name it.
it never ends. You've got 50 pages there, and
Yep,
we
I
could
do.
go through, and we don't have time because we're up against the hour now, Red.
I'm just
Uh,
trying to pick out a few.
But the bottom line is a lot of people are spending an awful lot of money to influence legislation in this state.
Mm-hmm.
And until we find a way, and Tim said there's a way to fix this, and it's going to come down to right person, right role,
Right
and
time.
the
Yep.
people have to get it right. We have to stop
Listening to the TV,
we
listening to
reading the
the
flyers that are
RPW.
the flyers that are put out by third parties.
Yep.
We have to stop.
Start
We have to do
doing
our
your
own
research.
And I'm sorry, but we have to look at the people who are accepting money from RACC or the Democrat equivalent to RACC, and I'm not sure what it's called, uh, but they have their own committee.
Yep, they do.
We just have to look at who's accepting the money, and we have to start doing the right thing. And we have to start putting people like Tim Rampton, and we have to make, on ballots,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to support them, and we have to support people like Scott Harbridge or Steve Rzuski.
Yes.
You
You
know,
know, and I will say, if they do retain the majority in the assembly, I want people to take note that, people have been kind of circulating a name out there that could possibly be the new speaker. And I will say, this one is the biggest donation of them all. And so I'm going to say he's going to be the new speaker. And that is going to be Tyler August.
well, I think
He donated
it's
30,000.
already it's a foregone conclusion. It's a done deal. If they retain the majority in the assembly, we've got Catherine with her hand raised, and then we're going to be up against the hour, Red. Go
Mhm.
ahead, Catherine. You have the floor.
One of the things I talked to Tim about before, and I do still think that this is a viable solution for us. But we'd need to have a heck of an organization and a lot of people behind it. I think we need to start our own PAC.
Hold on.
Just-
Go
there
ahead.
you go.
Yep.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, my county party, the chair started his own PAC outside of the county party. And I'm not sure if he's leaving it with the county party or if when he retires, he's ditching it or ditching us with it. But I think our group or the kind of, you don't want to call it patriots, but whatever. We need to have a PAC. That's all.
Well, I
So.
do know one pack that is starting. I don't know how far along they are yet, but that would be the WRA. We actually just got done with the meeting before the show.
But there again, unless they do the right thing.
Yep. They
But I like the We the People pack that Catherine's going to start.
I may be moving to Florida if we become a Democratic state.
Oh, you're going to Florida? We don't know where we're going yet. All right, Red.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, what?
Oh, that was a script.
All right, Red. We're up against it. Time to shut her down for the night.
So in other words, in my opinion, get involved. Start doing your research. Stop listening to the TV. Stop listening to the RPW. Yes. Do your own research. Stop being lazy. You know, and I was one of those lazy people up until 2020. So, you know,
And follow the money.
yeah,
The money means
definitely
something.
follow the money.
Everything comes back. And listen to your reps. If they're out there saying, hey, they've got a good gig going on, that should be a red flag. And you heard Tim talking about that right when he started talking about it.
Yep. And you know, some people will say, well, I'm not political material, I'm not a politician, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But we do know some in the first Senate district that didn't have any intention of running. But in my opinion, they would make a very strong Senate candidate, or senator, state senator. And that's what it takes. You know, we may not want to run for office, but if nobody else is going to step up to the plate, think of Isaiah 6:8.
They are.
Especially when you have people on the Democratic side.
We know polished lies is hard to find. We the people listening, shout what's real. Screech owls watching, let's got the wheel. Flags wave in the static air, freedom's crackling everywhere. Every voice matters, every voice dares.